So I know it's been a few weeks since I've had the cb350 in, but it is back, and I've just waited for all my parts to show up, which wasn't much. It was just some tune-up things that we came into, which was a needle and seat and a carb float for one side. And then we got a set of points and a double condenser that needs to go in for the tune-up parts. I could finish this guy up and button up the air cleaners and that kind of thing. I think electric start still needs to be addressed. The switch is not working, but we should be able to get everything else done, and maybe even that too, and have it so it runs and drives and whatnot. And then put it away, because winter is here. But I didn't want to not finish it up and then put it away, because that's how those things turn into forgotten projects. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. So let me get the gas tank off and let's see what we got underneath there for some tune-up goodies. So just loosened up the clamp and wiggled that carburetor out of there, took the float off, and then now we got a nice new needle and seat and float, because this is the carb that we had to tap for it to stop flowing. It would flood itself over, so that should be good. Again, there's the old one that we soldered back together, and then the old needle and seat, which was kind of rough. See contaminants on it. I think the tit is stuck in it too. It's supposed to have a little spring-loaded nipple on the end of it, and I think this one's frozen in place. So takes care of that. Now we just got to get up into where that condenser is. After I bolt the carburetor on there. Right there. Get that out of there and get some tune-up parts in it. I must say, that's probably one of the easiest bike carbs I've ever worked on. It's easy removal, setup. How much to them? Alright, so I tried turning them with a screwdriver. They did not want to crack loose. So, they'll loosen out. And I did pick up the correct screwdrivers. These are, I ended up with focus. And, it was like 20 bucks for the set. There you go. And I like, and they have, what's it? Can't remember what it stood for again. Japanese. Something standard, I forget. So let's get those dug out of there. You see the angle I'm trying to deal with. We'll get that capacitor out and change in that new one. Pretty simple. Just unplugged them from each one. Yellow to yellow, blue to blue, and you were just here. Where did you disappear to? Right in front of me. That's where. So it's just two capacitors, back to back. Kind of wondering what the configuration of that was. I'm sure you could probably just use two regular capacitors and maybe use that bracket over again, because it's not like they're dedicated to do something together, you know. And I'll actually probably think the wiring probably doesn't matter neither. Probably one does one circuit, one does the other, and that's it. I like one's a return path. So we get that bolted up in there. We'll get the cover off and we'll get into the points. The only reason why I bought that up is this was kind of expensive. I want to say it was like, I think it was 47 bucks for two sets of points in the condensers, which isn't terrible, but I think the condenser when I was looking alone was like 30 bucks just for that. So you can probably get away with a couple of $2 ones. But we'll see. So I'm in the process changing out the points. I believe these are the new ones. And the lead that goes to them, you have to undo this stack. And then it's preloaded to the outside, so it kind of, everything wants to explode when you take it apart, because this piece right here is a spring. And then you have to try to hold it all together, feed that on there, and start that nut. Well, I think that's a little bit of a pain in the ass. So I already cut one side. I'm going to go cut the other side. I'm just going to make it so that it's now a spade. And I can slip it over that. Chirp, chirp. Was it on the inside or the outside? It was on the inside. So I gotta kind of push all that back together, make some clearance. It's one of those times where I need my glasses. Yeah, I gotta get my glasses. And I think that ring is stuck to the... That guy's gotta get... There it goes. I'll tighten that up. Screw that back on and tighten that up, and we'll be good. Do the same on the other side. And the next thing I gotta do is go put 2 screws back in that plate that was screwing the points on there. And it could be a little on the tricky side to try to hold in there and start with a screwdriver. So there's this tool right here. And I believe this one's Starrett. That was Proto. And what it has, I don't know if the tip is going to show. It's got kind of like a spring-loaded rocker. You can put it up and put it into place. And I don't know if that's showing. That's kind of in a straight line. And if you take a screw, you can see the little cam that it has there. So as you push that in, now it locks that screw and you have that screw encapsulated. And it will make your life a lot easier to start the screw than trying to hold it and drop it and all that kind of stuff. So those guys. I'll do the same on the top one, then we'll start setting up to do the timing. So I put those points on there, but there's one thing I wanted to check on that I kind of jumped ahead on. I want to pull this plate right off and out of the way, and I want to take a look at, there's an advance behind here, a mechanical advance that advances this shaft. So I figure we'll go take a peek inside there. Maybe, maybe not. I guess like someone's definitely been here before me. Come on, crack it. There you go. You see the mechanical weights as that spins, that turns. I'm not sure if it's showing, but you can see the see that part advancing. So I'm just gonna go give that a quick cleanup. Looks like everything's working okay, but it's got a little bit of rust. So I'm just gonna probably take some carb cleaner in there, clean that up, and maybe put a dab of oil on each one of those little pivots. All right, so here's the setup. It'll take me a minute to explain. On the points, they are both set up for about 14th thou gap. I did some looking online, and they're saying anywhere between 16 and 12. I'm gonna set it at 14 for now, and this whole plate kind of rotates from left to right with those 2 screws that you saw. And this is the adjustment for that. You tweak a screwdriver in there, you rock that plate from left to right. I have it set almost dead center of the middle of it. And both of those are set at 14, and down on the flywheel, on the magneto rather, this is where the timing mark is, right here. I don't know if you guys are seeing that. Anyway, that's the mark, and you can see some. I gotta adjust the camera. Hold on one second. There we go. You can see that there's some writing on there saying LF and LT. LT is top dead center. LF is left fire. So the signal on the points should make and break right on that mark for LF, and of course LT is that's just top dead center. So the idea is that when you go and put a wrench on here and you rock the motor forward and back, those points should break right on. There's a test light hooked up to the lead coming off. That's the left points, and the way you can tell that is it says there's an L right there. So this is the left side of the engine. We're working on this side. They're independent of each other too. Although they're tied together on the same plate. One works from one side of the engine, the other one works the other side of the engine. They're totally isolated. Both have separate capacitors. They have separate coils. So it's basically two one-cylinder engines as far as the spark is concerned. So I'm going to go rock that back and forth, and I'm watching the test light for where it breaks. About there, and that's kind of like halfway in between. If you notice, it's you know, between the LT and the LF. So I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I might leave it right now. I'm going to loosen this plate up. I'm going to bump it one way or another and try to get it so it fires right on that left fire mark, and then I'm going to flip it over and we'll see how it looks on the other set of points and where that one does. And what you got to do is you got to rotate the motor to where it says the other should be right cylinder, but that's these two marks over here are the right cylinder fire, and T is the top dead center again also. Let's get the first side done. We get that dialed in so that it's firing right on that apex, and then we'll see what the other side looks like. So I have the wrench down below on there, and it's taped. The lifters, the springs on the lifters kind of want to make the rotor rock back a little bit. So there's actually the wrench holding it is taped right on the LF mark. I think we'll take a screwdriver. These two screws are loose. I'm going to tap that one way or another, and till the light comes on, then we know we're real close to that window. I do it without you guys. Way you guys. That might be the wrong way. Let's try the other way. There it goes. It's right on the cusp. Hopefully that, you guys see the light? Yeah. So let me tighten that down. You can see by breathing on it, it's going on and off right now. It's kind of what you want. And I should still be on my mark down below. You can see where I'm on that. And I should be able to keeps fighting me now. So you gotta move it some. Which way I gotta go? I'm gonna go tweak that a little bit more. It's better, but I want to be right there is where I want to be braking. So I'm gonna go move that further this direction and see if that dials in for us. If not, we're gonna have to work with the point gap. Alright, so I'd say I'm pretty close and try to get it where I get the light in there too. See where it's breaking. Right on that line right there, it's breaking. So now I'm going to go set up and do the other side and see how close we are on that one. So now we're set up on the other side, and you can see right where the F is hitting that line. It's kind of hard for me to show you straight on because the wire's in the way. Yeah, but right there, it's triggering right on it. So that's good. If I had a little bit of discrepancy between the two and I wasn't able to dial them in, I would change the point gap on them, and doing that you change the dwell when the cam comes around, how early or how late that point decides to make make or break itself. So that should be good. Next thing is we got to do a little bit of lube on the cam, because believe it or not, the points don't wear as much as the little cam that it rides on. Looking for a pointer. So this little piece of I'm going to call it Bakelite plastic right here has a tendency to wear down as it rubs on the cam, so that needs some kind of lube on there, and generally they'll come with something. You don't have to go crazy, but you want to get something on there, and this one again comes with a little for that, and if not, you just use grease. And on this one, it's dark. There's a little pad down in here that kind of loads up the grease and like a wiper, and it wipes it kind of going around. So I'll put a dab on there and I'll just work it around, and that's probably going to pick up most of it. I just don't want to get any big globs kind of sitting on here, because when the motor spins up, this area and this area has to maintain a very dry condition. Even if your feeler gauges are dirty, you have a little bit of oil on them, you're going to contaminate that. So you're going to want to go clean that with some carb cleaner and drag a paper towel through it and blow it off with an air gun, because any oil on these will cause these to have issues very shortly. One other thing I want to bring up and just show, when I first started, this tab over here was favoring the front side, so there's a good 10 degrees probably of timing, 5 to 10 degrees timing difference that this is off. And so something was out. Either the point gap was much larger than what it was, or someone just kind of tweaked it by ear, which wouldn't be the first time. I've done the same thing too. You kind of you run it, you ride it, you bump it one direction, see if it's any better or worse. You run, you ride it, you bump it the other direction, you see if it's any better or worse. So, but this, as far as the book is concerned, that should put us right where we need to be. You don't really need to put a timing light on this. You just need to go about that static, and then make sure your advance is working and there's no issues with the advance. If the springs get too stretched out, the advance doesn't return to zero like it should. It kind of, when it goes to return, it is lackadaisical. So I've moved on to adjusting the valves. The engine's still cold. And the spec I looked up was 2000s and 4000s. 2000s for the intake valve, 4000s for the exhaust valve. Usually the way it is, because the exhaust sees more range of change because it has more heat on that side of it. So generally your larger number will be on that. So what this motor has is a couple of caps, just kind of hiding the valves. 17 millimeter, took both of those off each side. I went back to the timing marks. And now we are looking at the LT mark, which is top dead center, not the LF, which is the firing mark. So we're more at the LT. It's off a hair right now. And you guys see if you're on the compression stroke or not. If you still have the test light hooked up and you were making and breaking, then you know you're okay there. I just grabbed this with my finger, and you hear I can get in there. I can rock that valve, and I can rock the intake valve around. So there's no, if you found one of those was pushed down and you're not able to move it, then you know you're still on the intake or exhaust stroke, not the compression stroke. So both valves are backed off. I stuck a feeler gauge on the front one at 4000s. It feels okay. I thought it was going to be a little loose, but it's not. But I put the 2000s on that one, and got it kind of stuck in there. 2000s is fairly thin though. It's like paper. And I broke my feeler gauge off. Anyway, that one's too tight, so it's going to need an adjustment. And normally a rocker will have the adjuster, you get in there to see, would have the adjuster on the top of the rocker. If you look at that one, you can kind of see, all you see is the head of the rocker. You don't see any kind of adjustment screw. Where the adjustments are on those are these right there and right there. And what that does, the shaft that the rocker is on for the valve has an eccentric in it. So as you turn it, it brings the assembly closer and further away from the camshaft and the rocker and the top of the valve. So that rocker goes closer and further away, and then you just adjust your gap accordingly, and you lock them down right here. So basically you kind of put a screwdriver on the center to hold it from turning. You crack the nut loose while your feeler gauge is in there, and then you turn it I'm not sure. There should be indexes on here somewhere, because there's a possibility you could rotate that around like 180 and come in from the other side, but you don't want to do that. I think they're talking about that little guy right there. I don't know if that's showing or not. Yeah, there's a notch on there. Seems like that one's facing at 3 o'clock, and this one is facing at like 2:30. That one's probably more at 4 o'clock. So I think you kind of want to go in that direction. I'm not sure which way it's going to get tighter or looser yet, but once I figure that out, I want to be fairly close to that, because you could probably have the capacity of having it over here, but I think it sets the lobe in the wrong direction. You know what I'm saying? As you're rotating that, it's eccentric, it's kind of moving around, so they want you to be favored on one side, not the other one. So let me go see what this does when I loosen it up, and I'll turn you back on. Let's see how this makes out. Also kind of picturing that slot is at about 130. And that's rotating that can. So let me get what's left of my feeler gauge in there if I can. It's real easy. About there. Hope that made sense to you guys. It's kind of hard without having an exploded view to understand what's happening inside there. Yeah, still a little tight. So I'm going to go from where that is, just physically jack it up a hair without. Sometimes when you tighten the screw down, it changes things. That might have been way too much. I do have a pack of feeler gauges. Yeah, it's way too much. That are independent and longer. They're about 5 inches long a piece. That feels pretty good. Go with that. So I'm going to double check the front side, but that's going to be the same operation all the way around. You're going to go to the other marks that we showed earlier when we did the points for the other side, and do the same thing for the other two valves on that end, and that should dial it right in. And just for show and tell purposes, these are the feeler gauges I was talking about that are individual from each other. So they're much longer. You're able to work with them without having that pack, trying to hold on to that pack. Not that you can't take these apart. You can take that thumb screw off of there and pull a section off, but it gets kind of messy, and generally never go back together. But you could do it with it. But I'm going to finish up with these guys. Well, it's all back together, and only thing I'm still waiting on that I need to get is a starter solenoid for the electric start to work from the button up top. So I'm still going to use the jumper pack to do so, but we should be good to go. Forget which way choke is. I'll try it that way. Like one cylinder. feels like one cylinder. Another thing I do know, the plug-ins on this kind of suck too. Yeah, so nothing. I'm going to put a spark plug in the other side. I want to see if the other side is sparking or if it's starving for fuel. Alright, I got to plug in the other side so we can get it fired. Does not spark. But it's waiting on. So we say we have a fuel issue on this side. So I'll go crack that. Possibly might be just the way the fuel line's draping down. It didn't allow it to purge. Got too much air in one spot, so it may have just not filled the carburetor up. And sometimes what you can do is actually just blow into the gas cap and force it through. I see fuel down here, so that may just will be the problem with the other line is full. So maybe just that we gotta get that air pocket out of it. I blew through it and started coming out the overflow of the carb, and I tapped on the bowl and it stopped. So I don't know if the float may have just been stuck, or like I said, it was just had so much air in that loop that it couldn't prime itself. Let's see what we get now. Sounds better. Now we're on board. So I'm just going to let that warm up for about 5 minutes or so, and then just kind of tune in the idle speed. And if I have to, if I find one side's dragging, I may put the gauges back on it and sync the carbs again, but that should have stayed okay. It's been about 10-15 minutes. It's okay. I didn't hook the gauges up to it again. I kind of just played with the carbs a little bit. One thing that has kind of showed up is it's probably the timing chain. Go out here. It's probably a timing chain, not the tensioner, but there's a I guess you call it a tensioner. It's a piece of like nylon that rubs against the side of the chain that runs up and down the side of the head, and I guess they fail over time and get brittle. It's a common problem, but I don't think it's in the process of blowing up or anything. So we're about the way it is. You get off an idle, it doesn't make any noise. Of course, the chain probably, you know, expands at that point and takes the slap out of it. But from a seized up barn find rusty bike to a running bike with everything working on it, I think we're doing pretty good. Come on, trying to get reversed. Anyway. Not sure how well that worked out. Just kind of stuck in my waistband there. Burning off some crap. This sounds good. Key's still on. There we go. Alright guys, again thanks for everybody watching, commenting, subscribing. This is a good one to do. It's fun. And just for shits and giggles, tried to start it back up. I said I'm gonna go try it with the key. I started right up with the key. Imagine that. Something fixed itself.